On this week's show, we're discussing a brand new Arkham game to rival Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights, an Xbox showcase, and some Starfield Shattered Space news, all your PlayStation Plus titles for the month of May, and his Helldivers just dropped a massive orbital strike on itself. All that, and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to this week's GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all of the weekly gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. You're joining me this week, Chris, what is on May the 4th, alongside my young Padawan, Mr. Richie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. You say young Padawan, I'm like 2 months younger than you.
Young Padawan, you could be, if we were twins, Richie, you could still be the youngest.
I will confess, I am a Padawan.
You are a Padawan.
Actually, no. I selected Jedi Knight for my difficulty.
Well,
Jedi Survivor.
Speaking of that, yes, we do have a great show lined up for you, but before we do get into all that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and ring-a-ding-ding that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing content here at GamerGuildTV, such as Youngling slaying, Empire, Star Destroyer destroying, and all the video game live streams we do. We do have an amazing Discord full of wonderful folks out there. Links and everything are in the description below. A fantastic merchandise store where if you're looking for some exercise gear, this week I'm rocking the GamerGuildTV. I don't know what sports shirt. I don't know what its actually official title is, but it's made by Jacko, so you've probably heard of them before. It's like an Under Armour style fitness top. It's getting quite warm. It's nice if you're going out for a jog. Keep it on you. That's all available on our GamerGuildTV merchandise store. But as you alluded to there, Richie, it is May the 4th, so may the force be with you all out there. Even though this goes up on, we've got Revenge of the 5th next, and then the 6th doesn't have a day. So Monday when this show goes live, hope you had a great weekend, everyone. It's actually a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, so hope you're all enjoying it, special time with loved ones, family, or maybe just playing games, because that's what we do here at GamerGuildTV. And Richie, the force was not with you this past week. On Thursday, you attempted to play Jedi Survivor several times, from what I saw.
I did play, but for some reason, I have no idea why, the YouTube stream would just stop. And then I'd boot up another stream. Everything seemed to be smooth. There was no like hitching or anything. I'm not getting any warnings through from YouTube saying bad connection. My internet seemed rock solid. It just got, nah, we're just gone. So I have no idea whether it was on my end, on YouTube's end, but basically I did roughly about 2 hours, split across 3 actual streams.
Yeah.
Which at some point I think I might go back in and try and piece it together.
I was thinking that for the sake of just clarity for anyone looking for the content. But one of those things, unfortunately, I let you host for the first time in many, many months, and your internet or YouTube just doesn't like you for whatever reason.
I don't know what it was. It was bizarre. It just dropped.
So you've been playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor, of course. You hadn't played it last year up on launch because you were busy playing Zelda. So is this now what you've been playing? Is this your focus for the next few weeks?
I think it will be, yeah. Because I had a blast playing. I'm a bit frustrated because of the stream stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing's been really fully sinking its teeth into me since I finished like Final Fantasy. So I've kind of been bouncing around a bit. I played a bit of Fallout 4, a bit of Fallout 76, a bit of Dreamlight Valley, which I think I'm just going to keep dabbling into, because I'm enjoying it as a very casual kind of thing. Yeah. And plus, my girlfriend's into it, and it's nice that we have like something going there.
A cozy game.
Yeah, it's so like it's just a relaxing, low pressure game, if that makes sense. It's kind of, it doesn't really make too many demands. You can just jump on it. There's no massive in-depth story to do. The quest's always quite fairly routine, simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. It's easy going.
No combat.
Yeah, no combat. I've lost my train of thought, but
so
I've been looking for that next thing, and when I saw Jedi Survivor was coming to Game Pass, I went, that's it.
Yeah,
that's going to be it, because I wanted to play it last year, but time didn't allow, and I decided to prioritize Zelda over it.
Yeah, it's a big perk of EA Play. I believe it's like once about a 12-month period is up, most games tend to trickle over to it, because we got Dead Space as well, kind of a similar time a year later, and it's good to know that if you do have an EA Play or Game Pass subscription, patience is a virtue when it comes to it.
Yeah. Now I do have an issue with Jedi Survivor. Not with the game itself at all. It ran. I was playing on my Series S. It ran nice and smooth. No problems there. But there was some weird graphical issues. I think because I see the Series S being underpowered. Like on the lightsaber, you could see like aliasing. So like kind of when you get that step effect of the pixels, you could really quite clearly see stuff like that. And it got me thinking this morning, it's like, when my Xbox All Access is up, do I go for the Series X? It's like,
Well, there might be another one. There might be another one out this Christmas.
I'm hoping I talk myself out of it before then, but with the Series S being, it's the first time I've really felt it shown, not its age, because it's not that old. It's underpowered. It's like, I did have a sincere wish I was sat there playing it on PlayStation.
Yeah, there's. I think the game got a lot of criticism at launch for being quite buggy. I personally didn't have any issues with Jedi
it wasn't
Survivor.
Bugs for me. It was. I genuinely think it was to get it run on Series S. It's turning down.
Yeah,
I
mean, performance in general
settings, yeah.
was
it ran
criticised.
smooth. I had no issue with the performance. It was, these like, I did have a distinct feeling. I wish I had this on PlayStation right now rather than Xbox.
Yeah,
because of the Series S.
You'll have to get back to me and let me know how it runs when you're near water. So there's like a couple of like creeks and streams and stuff throughout, and the game used to chug like mad when it went near water. I don't know if it's just like trying to process the fidelity of the water graphics maybe, but yeah, it used to struggle. But I thoroughly enjoyed Jedi Survivor. It probably would have been one of my game of the years. However, like last year was so stacked, it was like off to a cracking start with, I think Jedi Survivor might have been the big AAA to start the year.
It was Hogwarts Legacy, then nothing till Jedi Survivor, Zelda.
Yeah, it was Hogwarts Legacy, Jedi Survivor, then Zelda, and then bang, 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 we got hit with everything. Final Fantasy, like everything came out. So, kind of got, not shunned a little bit, but it got swept under the radar. It did.
I think it was always in the conversation, but I think it was a fair, this isn't the game of the year, because from what I've played, it does just feel like the next of Jedi Fallen Order. It doesn't feel like it's so far. I mean, I've only played like kind of the opening Coruscant section, like the first 2 hours. It doesn't feel like it's doing anything new or special that the last one didn't.
Yeah.
It feels like more the same, and that isn't a bad thing. But when you've got things like Baldur's Gate doing something really special there, I think it was right that it didn't get it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jedi Survivor will be like part 2 out of 3 of an amazing, if not the best Star Wars trilogy of games in history. Like easily, that's what it'll go down as. But I think you're completely right. It's just more of the same. However, there is a moment that probably happens about a third to halfway into the game, and it's very much like an Uncharted set piece. So when you get to it, you'll have to let me know, because it was one of those moments where when I finished it, I was just like, take a breath and be like, wow, that was epic. So look forward to that one. But yeah, I remember the first Jedi Fallen Order was almost shunned from Game Awards because of its date it came out. If you remember, it was the like middle of November to the back end of November, and it missed the cut-off date for the January Game Awards. So it was a bit of an awkward one where they didn't acknowledge it, and then it obviously recency bias and stuff had an impact too, and and then this one kind of just swept away. So it's a shame that this trilogy might be the best Star Wars trilogy ever, and it gets almost like no plaudits from an accolade standpoint. But
but I think that's with the Game Awards thing. It's kind of arbitrary. When do you put the Game Awards on? You either put it on December to celebrate the end of the year, or you put it in January to celebrate the previous year. But either way, there's going to be this arbitrary cut-off point. And if you're a developer and you really care about that, then you've got that come on kind of on you, really, to think about your launch time.
We all know shareholders decide when things come out.
Yeah, I personally would push it to the Game Awards to end of January, with the cutoff being the 31st of December.
Yeah.
Because that means any games come out for the Christmas rush will be in consideration.
Yeah. Plus, there's not many games launch in the January traditionally, so you've got a little bit of a peace window. But speaking of Star Wars, as I mentioned, it's May the 4th at the time of recording. There's more Star Wars news later on in the show with a brand new Star Wars game on the way for Nintendo Switch. But we'll talk about all that as we get into it. I've been just chipping away at EA Sports FC, which is in our news stories this week. Welcome to Wrexham's just started season 3 on Disney Plus. So my manager mode career with Wrexham in League 1 now is timed quite well to I was just kind of waning on it a little bit, and then now I've started watching the documentary. I'm like, all right, I'm right back in it now with that like little bit of a football hit. But I've just been watching.
I haven't played it this year. So I'm quite happy that it is coming to PlayStation Plus.
There you go then. Stuff to watch. News spoilers as well. But in terms of that, I've just been watching more TV. I'll talk about later in the show. I've watched the Knuckles series. All 6 episodes are done, so I'll give you my thoughts on that later in the show as well. But we'll get into the news, Richie. So if you could introduce us to the
graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka news.
The news. And as always, the news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, the folks who support the channel that extra little bit more. From as little as 99p, you can throw me, Richie and Rob some extra pennies to help support the show, get it broadcast and distributed via podcast platforms. So if you are driving on the commute to work, if you listen to this with your earphones in, that helps fund the distribution to get out to you on all those platforms. So thank you very, very much for the contribution. And of course, you get super chats and early access to this very show.
While you mentioned the podcast, Chris, I think it's I was mentioning on the stream, I think it's worth mentioning for a little bit. Google sunsetting Google Podcast for some stupid reason. And they're merging it into YouTube Music. But as far as I'm aware, you have to port your library over. So if you haven't already, it's worth looking into doing that if you listen to us on Google Podcasts or any other podcasts on Google Podcasts. Otherwise, you might be wondering why you're not getting your notifications. It's because Google is doing stupid Google stuff.
Yeah.
They're taking a good platform and merging it into a platform that I think most people... I don't know that many people actually use YouTube Music. I downloaded it recently and I don't like it, so I'm going to go back to Spotify.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Google will be doing Google things, but yeah, just search out at GamerGuild Podcast, at GamerGuildTV, and you'll find us out there in your algorithms. But story number 1, Richie, we have a new Batman Arkham game. Get hyped or don't get hyped, because that's right. This week was announced by Meta developer Camouflage. In tandem with Oculus Studios, we're getting a brand new game set in the Batman Arkham series universe, and it will be coming to ... Meta Quest 3 VR's headset, being developed in tandem with Warner Brothers and DC, promising a new story set in the Batman Arkham franchise canon, set for release later this year in 2024. More details are expected to be showcased at this year's Summer Game Fest with Jeff Keighley. And reading from the blog post, it says, "Evil stalks the streets, Gotham City is in danger, and you're the only one who can save it." Now, Richie, I watched this trailer, and as soon as I saw that MetaQuest logo, my heart just sunk. Because 1, Arkham Shadow is a cool as fuck name. 2, we've been starved for an Arkham game for nigh on 10 years now since Arkham City came out, a decade. We know the state of Suicide Squad. We know the state of Gotham Knights. And we get a VR is the answer. Now, to caveat this, before we go into it, Camouflage did the Iron Man VR game, and that game was terrific. It made me feel like Iron Man flying around. I own it. It was really, really good. And the Batman Arkham game, done by Rocksteady when the PSVR 1 launched, was a great Batman experience, but it wasn't an Arkham game. So to get this is almost like, kick us while we're down, Warner Brothers. Kick us while we're down. What are your thoughts?
I think we're probably quite similar. I think WB have kind of done Camouflage dirty here, because the Arkham IP should be something that they're celebrating getting, but because Suicide Squad was just a piece of shit, and because of Gotham Knights was a piece of shit that literally no one really wanted, it's like, everyone goes to WB, we want a sequel to the Arkham trilogy. So he goes, oh, you want Suicide Squad? It's like, no. You want a games as a service thing set in Gotham that isn't related to Arkham series? No. Fine, we'll give you VR. No. Like, I think because of the failure of them previous over 2 titles, Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, this feels like a kick in the teeth. If them 2 games were good and people were loving them, this would be absolutely fine. Because again, Camouflage got good reputation in the VR space. And as much as I'm not fond of Meta as a company, because of the dodgy dealings and selling your data and all that kind of stuff, the MetaQuest is actually a good handset. The hardware is good.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people do use it. Probably more so than any really. I think it's probably the most popular VR headset at the moment, without looking at the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a standalone product. We've always lamented the PlayStation one because of the cost applied to needing the console as well, which puts it well beyond the Meta's price tag. So, yeah.
And I 100% expect this is going to be a fantastic VR game.
Undoubtedly.
But it's a VR game, which means that you're looking, maybe a couple of £100 maybe free, somewhere between the 3 to 800 quid to even have the hardware to play the game. If you don't already have it, which means a lot of people not going to play it, and we're still starved of an actual Batman Arkham game. If they release this and then announced Arkham 4, you're good. But we know WB are doubling down on games as a service, even though the games as a service games have always flopped and their single player narrative experiences have all done well.
Yeah.
I really don't get what's going on at WB. Again, this is why I think Camouflage have kind of been done dirty because of the decisions elsewhere in the company.
Yeah, I can see why they'd want to go back, because as you said, it will be no doubt a terrific game. To give anyone a bit of context, the Batman Arkham VR game, which came out for PSVR 1, basically it was done by Rocksteady, so it was an internal studio, so it wasn't like shipped out to anyone different. But basically, it took place inside the world, and it had you doing everything you do in the normal Batman game. So you start off in like Crime Alley, you scan for clues, but because you're in VR, you get to see it all through Batman's like cowl. So you scan the environment, you see the clues, and obviously everyone knows he's got like his bat grapple gun and everything. So you can actually traverse quite well in VR without having like actual movement. You can jump from like rooftop to windowsill to the ground level and do like all of the investigatory stuff like quite easily. Obviously amazing voice acting by Kevin Conroy and everything really filled in the gaps, but it did something really interesting with motions. You know how horror games do really well with you looking one direction down a corridor, there's nothing there. You look left and then look back and you can like plant a monster or something in your face. It utilised that really well in Batman with the Joker is inside his head. So there'd be things happening. Again, spoilers for like a 10-year-old game nearly. But there's parts where basically you're looking in the mirror and you can see you as Batman. But you like look around with the VR headset on, look down, look back up, and it's the Joker's face in the mirror instead. So a couple of really good jump scares because the Joker's like in Bruce Wayne's head essentially. And yeah, it played out really well. It was a very short, condensed story, but again, Camouflage, really good. Like the Iron Man game, as I said, was terrific. It's just, as you said, they've been kind of done dirty by the last two games not hitting really well.
I think they're also shooting themselves in the foot a bit by making this a platform exclusive to the Meta Quest. I think VR. I get Meta have probably dropped a bag of cash to get this game, but the problem with making a platform exclusive is anyone who's into VR that doesn't have a Meta Quest cannot play this game. And considering you're already trying to cater a relatively small audience who are actually into VR, fragmenting that by going, well, you can't play this because you've got PSVR or you've got Oculus. Is it Oculus? No, Oculus did become MetaQuest, didn't it?
Yeah, it's part of their rebrand.
You got whatever Steam's thing is, whatever HITC's is, what all this. You have the wrong VR headset, so you can't play this game. It's just bad for the game. It's bad for the developers. So I don't know. I think this could be a good game, but unfortunately, I think the narrative is kind of it just puts the spotlight back on WB and going, "What you doing?"
Yeah, of course we know they've got the Warner Brothers are working on the Wonder Woman game, which is kind of set in the same universe. That's from Monolith. So instead of getting a third entry in the Shadow of War Middle Earth series, we get that instead. So hopefully that will be great because I'm always down for more.
I mean, we've talked about Shadow of War before. I think WB learned the wrong lesson from that, where that game kind of flopped a bit because of the controversy of the loot boxes and difficulty mechanics and stuff. They try to pay gate stuff. It wasn't well received when it launched. I think they learned the wrong lesson. Instead of going, oh, it's these practices that people are unhappy about in the game, they went, oh, people not interested in that game.
Yeah, it's
what,
always.
What are people interested in? Suicide Squad.
Yeah, again, we've lamented WB's odd decisions for quite some time now, and I don't think they're going to get it right anytime soon.
Well, I know they're not, because you look at Hogwarts Legacy last year and how well it continued. It's still in the sales charts and to this day, over a year after its launch. And yet, in the wake of that, they said they're doubling down on games as a service. So your most profitable IP, you're not learning your lessons from your success stories.
Just the idiot. That's why. but they just happen to strike goals with certain games. Thankfully, some of the teams internally know. Like, again, Rocksteady know what they're doing. Monolith know what they're doing. Portkey Games, who did Hogwarts Legacy, seemingly know what they're doing. It's the leadership above them who are shareholders who make this. Yeah, exactly. So they've got the right 100%, teams.
This is the good game. It's leadership. Expectation. Yeah. But it's now under a cloud of bad leadership.
But we'll wait a little bit longer to find out what that looks like in terms of Arkham, and maybe one day we'll get an actual good Batman entry in the series to continue that tradition. Pivoting away to this month of May, as we kickstart off, PlayStation Plus games announced for the month of May. These are your claimable titles. You can get them as of the 7th. And this month's slate looks like EA Sports FC 24, formerly known as FIFA, just in time for the Euros this summer. Ghost Runner 2 recently came out. That's there as well on PlayStation 5. Tunic, the former Xbox exclusive, now going on to PlayStation Plus as well on PS5 and PS4. And Destiny 2 Lightfall expansion on PS5 and PS4 is also available. Richie, I think we said post-show, you still have PlayStation Plus Essentials, so you can claim that as well. Good month, solid month. If you're a football fan, I guess it's one of those where I think if you're into it, great. If not, might be a bit of a gap.
Sports games are hit and miss. If you're into it and you haven't bought it, this is great news. So for me, great news. But that's a niche within a niche, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I'm just happy I don't have to put the disc in. This is a very solid month.
Destiny Lightfall, again, I think that's another thing where it's similar to EAFC, where I think the user base who play Destiny and are interested in this game, who haven't yet bought it, is probably small.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the main two to look at in this month to see the quality is Ghost Runner and Tunic. And I think that's solid, to be honest.
Yeah, Ghost Runner didn't come out that long ago, from what I recall.
But I think maybe a little over a year ago.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of we're just going to say FIFA for all intents and purposes. FIFA and Destiny, you're right. I think the hardcore will have already bought it and played it. So it's definitely two games that probably hit saturation point at this time in the year. We've just said the actual football season in the UK is literally just wrapping up like this month. So like you kind of see like FIFA runs its course about now. And then we get a void. Although it'll probably have a bit of a bump because of the Euros this summer. Usually when you have a competition, it stokes the flames a little bit more. But yeah, I think between Ghost Runner and especially Tunic. Remember Tunic was up for a lot of Game of the Years, and I think a lot of awards that Microsoft pipped that year it launched were thanks to Tunic. If they didn't have that, I don't think Xbox would have had that much to show, especially on the indie front that year. And this was like one of the standout. It's basically Zelda with a fox, is what I've heard. I don't know which version of Zelda. It's probably like attuned to a certain specific type because of the style. But what do you think? Is it striking you as a Wind Waker or?
No, I think it's more of the more of a classic Zelda, your 2D top-down kind of stuff, rather than a full 3D experience. You're thinking something like Link to the Past or the Game Boy games, the Oracle games, in that style rather than the 3D style that would start with Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I mean, the description says, explore a hostile and intricately connected world of shady forests, sprawling ruins, and labyrinthine catacombs. Labyrinthine? That's a word I've never seen before. Catacombs. Labyrinthian. Catacombs in this stylish, isometric adventure. Discover hidden treasures and secret techniques to help you on your way. Clash with colossal beasts and smaller enemies deep beneath the earth, high above the clouds, and in places stranger still. All will test your knowledge of technical combat as you courageously dodge, block, parry, and strike to conquer them all.
You know what I love? I love how this game is so clearly made by Zelda fans.
What gives it away?
The character looks... Well, the character looks...
if
you remove the fox,
yeah,
the green tunic, the fact that Link typically always wears a tunic as well, the shield looks almost like a little... it's inspired by the Hylian shield. You got a sword. It's like this very... And the isometric... I said 2D before, I meant isometric. The isometric style, but this is clearly like a homage. It's like Oceanhorn as well.
Yeah,
you can tell that the devs of that love Zelda. Love the traditional Zelda games.
The devs in the pitch meeting, hear me out. What if Zelda,
we're making Zelda.
He's a fox.
That's what we want to make. Yeah.
She's a fox. He's a fox. Link's a fox. And then, as you said, Destiny Lightfall, I think it's pretty much just, if you want to play it, it's the expansion. It's the one where they go to Neptune. So if you've been out of the loop of Destiny for quite some time, it's there to jump back into. So yeah, I think a good solid month. bit of variety. Obviously, if you're not a sports fan, I think Ghost Runner and Tunic are more than enough to kind of fill your coffers with that. And
and again, this is your claimable month for this is just your essentials. We'll get a mid-month drop for extra and premium, and plus the catalog stuff. That's always getting added to. So.
Absolutely. And I like the fact with FC24 now, I can stop putting the disc in my console because I've got the digital version now, so I can save on those precious few seconds of switching things out.
I'm looking forward to playing it actually because I didn't buy it at launch, and I just never did. So having it come through PlayStation Plus for me is it's good news.
I think I buy it every other year, but I think with this year being the FC rebrand, I want to have the physical copy for like that little piece of history. And funnily enough, I'm currently playing it now anyway, so it's one of those games I think we'll always go back to, isn't it? Just for that.
I think I chose not to buy it because I end up sinking a lot of time into it and it distracts me too much from other games. I thought, you know what, this year I'm not going to bother.
Yeah. Well, pivoting away from some PlayStation and Xbox with Tunic news into some Xbox juicy stories, we've got confirmation that we are getting a Xbox showcase this summer, June the 9th, coming in line with Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest. We knew this was going to happen. That means just locked in confirmation-wise, we've got Summer Game Fest, which will be the big kickoff event. We've got Xbox Showcase now, and we've got the Ubisoft Forward all confirmed for that like long weekend in June. Inevitably, we'll get a Nintendo Switch. Yeah, thanks, Jeff, for pulling it all together because we like it in one tidy place.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, giving us the bloody dates and time. Now, we've got a month out.
Instead of going, next month,
oh yeah, instead of like PlayStation, what they go, oh, by the way, guys, tomorrow there's going to be a PlayStation Plus, a PlayStation showcase. Like, cheers, we've no time to do anything about it.
Yeah, that rumored PlayStation showcase was supposed to be April, right? And then now we're in May. It might as well just come in June. Just come in June along with everything else. So hopefully we'll get
a date on it, and we know so we can show up.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
So Xbox Showcase, no doubt we'll get loads of big reveals. The biggest thing to come out of it was we got the date. We know they're going to showcase some stuff off, but then they had it followed with a mysterious, I don't know what you'd say, put some art up to come after it. There's a direct, like I think last year they did the Starfield direct immediately after the Xbox Showcase, so it got its own 40-minute dedicated thing. This year it's showing as it's an orange and black, but the game's actually been redacted, which basically everyone reads to be it's Call of Duty. And the rumour is it's going to be a new entry in the Black Ops spin-off franchise of Call of Duty. That makes sense for me. I think that's a good choice to go big with. Like this, arguably this year is one of this year's biggest sellers. Is now you own them, put it front and center as part of your showcase. So without any Starfield news, like get that in there.
And they're doing that kind of double dip thing where they're going, he's an Xbox showcase, everyone gets excited for this, but he's another thing as well. And they're very much putting, if it is Call of Duty, they're kind of going, well, guys, Call of Duty is ours now. They're associating that brand of Call of Duty strongly with Xbox. That's what they're doing here. Rather than, because they could just put this in the showcase, make the showcase longer. But I think that, like they did with Starfield, we've got something big here. We want to show this off. We're going to give it its own thing immediately after the showcase to keep you sticking around.
Yeah.
So it doesn't dwarf the showcase either.
Absolutely. June the 9th as well is a Sunday, and it's 6 p.m. in the UK. The actual initial one kicks off. So that's good timing for us for a change. We might cover it here on the channel. We usually do with it being a weekend. Don't see it being that much of a problem, but we'll iron those dates out as we get closer. But it's nice to think that this time in a month, Richie, we haven't really had like a hype jump since Christmas when we did Summer Game Fest and we had a couple of announcements. So this is, and I think with all the platforms still being so quiet, I think it should be a banging summer for reveals and presentations from the big boys. I think we're getting like new Assassin's Creed game. We're clearly going to get more Indiana Jones stuff. The rumour is we're going to get Gears of War at this showcase. A new Call of Duty now included with it. If PlayStation go, that potentially means Ghost of Tsushima 2, whatever Naughty Dog are working on. Like, there's so much hype and potential for this summer. That's all. I feel like it's all bottled up. And I feel like we've been saying for a year now, they have to show us something soon. Has to be soon. But it has to be now, right?
They've got a lot of irons in the fire. You look at even things like Starfield, Shattered Space DLC. There'll be eyes on that.
Yeah, that was...
I'm not expecting anything new Fallout, but an update to Fallout, a potential expansion to something like Fallout 76.
You got to imagine a scrambling for that now after the success of the show.
Elder Scrolls. Is it time? Is it time to start talking about it? It's been a long time. Now Starfield's out.
Yeah, but...
Elder Scrolls is the next big Bethesda game in the slate.
Yeah, I think that's a while off, though. I think they've still revealed that way too early. But funny you should mention Shattered Space, because we got an update on that this week. Todd Howard's been doing the rounds off the back of the Fallout TV show's success. And he said earlier last week that just keep your eyes peeled for some news. And we know Shattered Space is confirmed. It's coming up for an autumn release. So inevitably that will be at the showcase this summer, ready for the autumn release. So you'll probably hear about it in a month's time, and then it'll probably launch in 2 months' time. But in terms of Starfield's updates, they just had the big patch 1.11, and it's a game with quite a few improvements. So I know we're both kind of done with Starfield, but looking at the quality improvements they've done, I think similar to Skyrim and Fallout, this is going to be a game Bethesda intend to support for, I think they've confirmed, probably like a decade to come at least. Yeah. We've now got improved surface maps. We've got new gameplay options for those who want to tweak the challenges and such. We've got extra ship decorations and a bunch of other things. Anything major stand out for you? For me, it's the maps. That's the one thing that really just annoyed me.
There's the maps. There's also multiple fast travel points being put onto planets. So it always felt arbitrary. You just drop in the planet. This is what I didn't like about Starfield's planet system. Everything you dropped in the planet just felt bland. Here's a couple of way markers to run off into the distance. I want fully mapped surfaces. Like, if you're going to use procedural generation, you should do it before and then map the surfaces and stuff. So give me a sense of that the exploration has a purpose and that there's interesting stuff to find rather than just random crap. Here's a base full of a few raiders. Oh, great.
Yeah, it was definitely a case of dropping at your ship's location and then run for a random 2 minutes until you were tired from your stamina to then walk for a further 2 minutes just to get to the shop or something like that to pick up ammo, to then do it all back in reverse just to get your ship to fly to the next mission point.
Playing Fallout 4 the other night, literally, I'm on the way to the castle for the Minutemen and I got distracted by, I wonder what's in there. I never got that with Starfield. And I get it with the Elder Scrolls. You'd be walking over a hill and go, what's that? I want to go see what that thing is. Starfield, I just never had that. I think because you're just walking through the planet, you go to the objective, you do the objective, you go back in your ship. I think that's why I was so easy to just mainline the story. I did like one faction and the main story, and then I called it a day. I didn't get lost in that universe, which is weird for Bethesda.
Yeah.
It just didn't have, there was something missing. And I know things like the menus to get into planets and stuff, that detracts a bit. But there was something else that I've never really fully been able to pinpoint that's missing.
Yeah, maps was a huge one for me. It does look like they've done a really cool job at customization, and the maps are like full 3D scans of the environment, so it's not just like a 2D flat map. It's a genuine like 3D rendering of the planet that you're on. Tweaks and customizations I think are cool. It was always, I thought the shipbuilder was quite basic anyway. If stuff didn't lock in like Lego, it just basically wouldn't let you do it, and there was no way around it, even though like visually it seemed to be okay. But again, it's just the tip of the iceberg. They're saying the blog post. There's more patches and fixes. I think this is basically the groundwork done ahead of Shattered Space launching. I think they're going to go big on whatever the expansion is. Hopefully draw a lot more people back in. Because again, for all intents and purposes, Starfield has been Xbox's most successful game probably the last several years. So they'll want to focus on it.
I think that's it. I think they'll probably see Shattered Space as almost a relaunch of it. So they want to get some of the major criticisms dealt with before, so you don't get people jumping it back in for Shattered Space and going, the things I didn't like about this game still exist. You want people to jump in and go, the map's actually good now. I can easily travel around worlds better. I can manage my inventory better, because it's weird. It's a small thing, but I think it's huge for a Bethesda game, being able to adequately manage your inventory. Fallout 4's inventory management is terrible in my opinion. It's so hard to see to compare gear. You got like, here's 8 chess pieces, which one's best? It's always clunky and horrible. Having stuff like that improved, the quality of life fixes make it easier for me to want to stay in the game.
Absolutely. And we know Xbox have got a tough time of that. So moving from the good news of Starfield to the bad news, I want to recap on Redfall. So yes, the vampire game that launched a year ago, Richie. It's been a year already since the dismal launch of Redfall, and from good Bethesda to bad Bethesda. It was highlighted this week to me that Anyone who bought the premium Ultimate Edition, unfortunately, of Redfall for nearly £100, there was DLC that was promised as part of the Bite Back Edition. You could also buy it separately for $29.99, and it was supposed to include 2 new future heroes as part of like the cast and crew. And a year later, it's still yet to materialize. And I was wondering what your thoughts were on the state of Redfall.
Well, with if you're going to have a premium edition that promises future content on launch, I think you need to slap a date on it. You need to give people a rough idea of how long it's going to be out. Otherwise, this is the sort of thing where you can burn trust with gamers who will go, well, I've been waiting a year for this content that I've paid for, and there's not a word. I don't like that sort of stuff. I think this is where they should really, if they're not going to do it, or they're not going to get it out soon, they need to be starting thinking about issuing refunds to the people who paid extra for that content already.
Yeah, I mean, we know Arcane Austin, pretty much all their team has been shedded. I think it was did they lose something like 2/3 of their workforce during development of this game? So it's not even the same team that's left. But their last official word was on an update last November that said, we're continuing development on the Hero Pass, and we're excited to share more about Redfall's new heroes and other updates later next year. Well, we're into next year now. It's now May. I mean, I know, who was it, Xbox? Is it Matt Booty or someone came out and said they intend to support Redfall for years to come because they believe it is part of the Game Pass catalogue. And I think we actually praised them and said, well, you know what, if they can get Redfall to a good place,
it's not the game we're hoping for, but there's some fun to be had in this game. It's just not a tentpole AAA title that £100 title that it was kind of billed as.
Mm-hmm.
It's that high quality AA. You know what? It's like a Left 4 Dead. No one's looking at something like Left 4 Dead as this is in nowadays as a game that, yes, this is going to win a game of the year. Now you're looking at there's a lot to be fun had in this game. It's that tier below.
Yeah.
But they need to talk about this game. They need to talk publicly, and they need to explain. Because if I bought the Bite Back edition for £99.99, and I've had to wait a year for content, I'm already disappointed in the quality of the game when it's launched, and now I'm having to wait an entire year without even any substantial word about the extra content I've already paid for. I'm pissed in that situation. I really am.
I mean, what's the Redfall Steam player count? I know it was usually bad anyway.
6.
Steam DB, let's have a look. Hazard a guess as to how many players are playing it right now.
Realistically, not joking around, I'm thinking sub 1,000.
Try sub 100.
Oh.
Or in fact, again, this isn't Xbox.
That doesn't include Game Pass numbers.
Yeah, it doesn't. But just PC players who own Redfall. 28
players, PC players who own Redfall
on the planet are playing it via Steam right now. Its 24-hour peak is 80.
What's Left 4 Dead?
A lot more, I suspect. A lot more. Its peak was 12 months ago, so at launch, no surprise. That's 6,100. So again, this is a multiplayer game. But again, these figures are all subjective, and they're always caveated with little things. As you said, Xbox. Most people probably play it on Xbox via Game Pass, but Steam is a place you can buy it and play it, and the Steam charts are probably a really good indicator of it. But give us the stats of Left 4 Dead.
I can't find them. To be honest.
Oh really? Not on there. Yeah. Left 4 Dead. Is it on Steam?
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah, Steam DB. There you go. Steam DB. Playing right now, 17,994.
And when did Left 4 Dead come out?
11 years ago.
There you go.
Just shows you. Oh, sorry, that was Left 4 Dead 2, actually. Should just correct myself on that one.
Still,
give or take.
Point remains.
The original Left 4 Dead, 355 players right now, for clarity.
Yeah, but a lot of the Left 4 Dead fans have moved on.
And that's a 15-year-old game, yeah.
Yeah, my point still remains valid that it's getting beat out by a game 10 years its senior, which is 10 years. And there should be a lot of innovation in the time. Redfall has no business being worse than Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, you would suspect. But bad practices all round. I'm sure there might be
There's a
saving
game in
the
there. I
yeah.
think there is a fun game in there, but with all the layoffs to Arcane Austin and the silence, they're making it harder for themselves to bring out the quality of this game,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I
And yeah, I do think it's time to start thinking about refunding people and just abandoning their additional content and going, you know what, this game's dead in the water. Can we pull this back? If there wasn't for the layoffs, I think they could pull it back. But for the layoffs, it's like who's there to pull it back?
This is why I think Arcane Austin's at risk of probably closure, because then like they've got other Arcane studios, so it doesn't hit the brand as harshly because Arcane will still exist and it'll be the Deathloop team who are arguably the better studio. As you said, there's nobody left really to do it. So the people who are left are the people who put out Redfall, and like if you're Microsoft looking at your figures and your numbers and in the state of the industry right now, I think they'll get out this DLC of these promised heroes, and then I think they'll shutter them. It's as harsh as that sounds, but let's move on to some more interesting negative stories. Square Enix abandoned £112 million worth of in-development projects in an effort to improve quality. Reading from their financial year report, the results were in at the end of the fiscal year. And these are called, they label them as content abandonment losses. They're part of Square Enix president's streamlining of the company's output of games with the intention of being more selective and focused in its allocation of development resources. Because we possess strong IPs like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy franchises, he believes that he's tended to be over-reliant on certain gameplay styles or genres. Meanwhile, the tastes of our customers in gaming markets have diversified, and customers have come to enjoy content from a variety of genres. It's increasingly polarizing between blockbuster and indie titles, but I feel we've been developed many titles that feel somewhere in the middle. I want to make clearer and distinctions going forward. So, Richie, Square Enix always get a bit of criticism for under-promising, over-promising, or being overcritical of their own IP. They seem to come out and instead of celebrate, they go like, underperformed. Sold 5 million units, underperformed. We wanted 100. And like it's happening right now with Final Fantasy Rebirth. Is it's getting loads of criticism for apparently underperforming, underselling, but game was like reviewed incredibly well. It's selling well. It's just not as well as they expect.
It's a chapter 2 in a part in a trilogy. It's not going to sell as well as the first one, and we know people like Rob who are interested in these games are not interested until the full it's done. I think that's what my taking's always been with the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sales is it's not there yet, and because the story's not complete, people are happy to wait, and people know it's going to come to PlayStation Plus at some point. So why drop your money if you don't feel like the need to play it immediately? You can wait. So I think that's probably a big part of it. Is like, yeah, okay, I'll wait. I'll wait for whatever the next one's going to be called.
I mean, looking at Square so far this year, they put out Final Fantasy Rebirth. They put out Foam Stars. And they've recently just put out the Final Fantasy Rising Tide expansion for 16. And there is a Dawn Trail expansion set for Final Fantasy 14 in June, which is obviously ever ongoing and popular. I think Foam Stars slipped up a little bit because it launched the same weekend as Helldivers. So it's kind of, it's a platform, was it a platform exclusive, Foam Stars? Was it PlayStation exclusive? I think it was.
It might have been, yeah.
I feel like that missed the trick by maybe being destroyed by Helldivers' success, which you could never have predicted going into it. But in terms of Square Enix, cancelling 112 million worth of projects, and recently, obviously, we know they've got rid of Adios Montreal, we know Crystal Dynamics have been sold off, so it's like, is Square basically becoming just a Final Fantasy studio at this point with a couple of little trinkets on the side?
I think what they're saying is actually smart in a way, because reading between the lines, it almost feels like they're getting pulled in too many different directions, and then rather than focusing on quality, they're trying to service too much different stuff, and they end up just releasing a bunch of mediocre titles that don't sell great. Now there's going to be a bit more selective and make sure the quality's there. I think it's getting back to Square, looking at Square published games as that is a sign of quality, which I don't think you can say that about Square at the moment. You can't just assume a Square Enix game is quality because they publish. Well, even for Spoken, the polish is there. It's just not a fun game. There's something just missing, something lacking from that game. But there's a lot of stuff in the kind of mediocre AA kind of stuff that Square publish. I think it's trying to like, no, we need to focus on what we do well. It's weird when he's talking about like the diversification as well of genres. You guys sold Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah, you had Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
which is very much a Western game.
Yeah, you seem to jettison all your the studios that you had that were good at making Western style games, and now you're talking about diversifying your portfolio.
Well, I feel like
it's either are you doubling down on what you've traditionally done well, like your Dragon Quest or your Final Fantasy, or are you trying to diversify?
Yeah, well, I don't
really know from the statement.
I feel like the statement from a year or two ago was about focusing back on what they do well, which was the Final Fantasy. Because that's like when they sold Crystal and Tomb Raider. It's not just
Final Fantasy, it's other JRPGs and stuff. Final Fantasy is probably the pinnacle of that genre, but they do release a lot of stuff in it.
Was I right in thinking as well that these guys were the ones who sold Hitman back to IO? So like they had another like non-Japanese traditional franchise that also went.
I feel in that one they didn't realise what they had on their hands. Because Hitman was a bit of a dead franchise before its reboot. But then it was after, was it between 1 and 2?
2 and 3
of the reboot.
It was just before the launch of 3.
Yeah. I don't think they quite realised. Yeah, it's not. That's one of them games where it's not going to do 10 million copies, but might do you 1 million. And if it's profitable, just let IO. You should have just let IO crack on with it.
I'd have expected more than 1, but
I don't think they should have sold Crystal Dynamics. I think that was a mistake for both Square and Crystal.
Yeah, I agree. Especially to Embracer Group. If it was to like Ubisoft or PlayStation or Xbox, I would be like, all right, fair enough. There's good stewardship under them, but Embracer with their track record,
what they shouldn't have done was got Crystal to work on Avengers. What they should have done is got Crystal to work on Tomb Raider 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Either way, Square doing Square things out there. And they can't even save the Gecko now because they sold the Gecko to Embracer Group. So if you want a Gex reboot, folks, you got to knock on Embracer's door and ask for that there. Pivoting away, though, to some Ubisoft news and a game launch news. XDefiant. It's been a while. It's been quiet, but Ubisoft
defied the odds.
Ubisoft's previously Tom Clancy's until they dropped the name of it all. Free-to-play shooter XDefiant has been delayed several times now. I feel like it was going to launch on Google Stadia as well. Was the initial project plan? So just showing you how long ago it really, really was. The 6v6 mashup of basically Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, and The Division all bundled into one for this shooter. Has had numerous inside tests. I've been part of one of the closed betas before. I enjoyed what I played of it. And then it just seems to have just gone silent. Similar to The Division Heartlands in a weird way. But out of nowhere, surprise, surprise, Richie, it launches on PS5, Series X and S, and PC this month in 15 odd days on the 21st of May. Do you think this is the right time to launch it? Again, we should say it's been received quite well behind the scenes. There's a lot of beta testers and influencers been saying it's very it's close to Call of Duty gameplay as you can expect. And I think this is the Rainbow Six Siege element coming into it.
Is that not a problem being too close to Call of Duty? Because if it feels like a poor man's Call of Duty, we have Call of Duty.
Yeah, but it's got that Siege element, which I think that's what they're trying to put their eggs into. It's like imagine Call of Duty gameplay, but with Siege, and we know Siege does well. So, and if you remember, it takes all the cast of characters are from all their other franchises. So you've got your classes are like not really, but you got Libertad from Far Cry, you got the Cleaners from The Division, DedSec from Watch Dogs, the Echelon from Splinter Cell. So I see what Ubisoft are planning, but is it any wackier than launching a game with just like random pink neon skins that don't have any resonance with the?
I get what they're doing. I do kind of like them tying it into other Ubisoft franchise and stuff, but I don't think a lot of their franchises, some of the lore is as strong as they think it is.
Yeah,
like people know Abstergo, people know things like the Assassins and the Templars. I don't think people who's the bad guys in Division.
The Cleaners. They're one of the factions. I mean, if you play The Division, I would have thought so.
Yeah, but if you play The Division, you've got The Division.
Yeah,
I think there's a game in there. My worry is this is Hyperscape again.
Yeah, I was just thinking
that when it comes out, and the way they've done it is kind of weird. They kind of almost workshopped it with the community. What happens when the people that workshop with it decide actually nah, I'd rather go back and keep playing like things like Call of Duty or Fallout or whatever
Yeah.
they're playing, and then suddenly their fan base isn't going to this game.
Yeah, it does. It does kind of reek of trying to chase the fad of like what's going to be the new Apex breakout, and I think
hope it works.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the cost? Is it free to play?
Mm-hmm.
What's the monetization strategy then behind it?
After the preseason ends, Ubisoft will switch to a quarterly update schedule, introducing seasons, complete with a 90-tier battle pass every 3 months. Each season promises new maps, weapons, and factions, with Ubisoft saying it expects to release an additional 4 factions, 12 maps, and 12 weapons within XDefiant's first year. So
that sounds good, but again, it depends on the cost of the season passes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the delay has been to get them lined up ready to go, because there's nothing worse than having your rollout then delayed further and further, and the game just like dies because there's no content drops coming. You need to get ahead of that.
I think because of the development cycle of it, I'm just going to be skeptical until it does well. I hope it does well, because I do think that we need a competitor to Call of Duty. Call of Duty has basically had the first-person shooter genre on lockdown for ages. So I do think a competitor, bring out a competitor to that, because Siege has its own niche. It is a first-person shooter, but it's not going head-to-head with Call of Duty.
No.
This feels like it is more. And again, as I said, the problem with going head-to-head with Call of Duty is it's got to be better than Call of Duty to make sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just go back to play Call of Duty if it's just as good as.
Well, that's it. But
I don't know. I really do hope it does well. I do want to see Ubisoft have some successes, and I'm just always skeptical of Ubisoft.
Yeah, well, we know they dropped the Tom Clancy name because of the backlash they initially got for this game, saying it was the style of the game with the flamboyant neon bright colours and emotes, I guess, is straying too far from Tom Clancy's hard, gritty world that he wrote in his novels. They just basically, because they have the IP, they attach it to anything to do with military shooters, and it's kind of become synonymous with Ubisoft as a brand. But yeah, I think it's nice to see them having a crack at the whip. But you're right, it's a very dried up market now for first person shooters, and it needs to be something special to really break that mold. But pivoting away from that Ubisoft news to something that did break the mold, and that is Helldivers 2. So going back to Helldivers, Richie, we got some news this week suddenly, out of nowhere, that you require via PC to link your PSN account, and it's causing a bit of an uproar in the old stratosphere out there. Now,
is it?
Well, this is it, right? So I don't know how to take this, because I'm a massive Helldivers fan, so I don't want my bias to impact it too much. But for clarity for those, an official update came out on Steam explaining that starting soon, PC players will need to link their Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network account in order to play the game. Due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers, if you remember, its servers were just hammered with issues because of just how popular the game was, is they initially forewent the requirement of linking it to a PlayStation account to just act as a temporary solution. That grace period is now expired, and in a nutshell, after the 6th of May, so pretty much at the time of listening to this, you will have to link those accounts to be able to play the game. That then means that there is a reality where if PlayStation Network doesn't operate in your country, you can't be able to play Helldivers anymore, which I do think there's an inherent problem there.
That is a problem, 100%. Yeah. If that is the reality, that is a problem.
Because you could have bought the game, been playing it for months.
I know the devs couldn't answer that question, which I think is
it's a PlayStation problem.
Yeah. But they should be able to answer that question before that gets forced upon them.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of
so they need to address that very quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah, if it's not available in your country, there needs to be some kind of caveat where you get out of it, because it's like, well, if that's not a thing, then there's nothing you can do. But if you've bought the game, been playing the game, you either get a full refund, right? Surely. Like, you can't just take it away from me because you've implemented new rules. We will say it was in there at the beginning, so it did state that initially so even on the Steam page at launch, it did say it requires a PSN account.
I wonder, with the outrage of people having a link a PSN account, is this a handful of people on Reddit that they're gaming press has picked up on made to be a bigger deal, because does anyone really care? It's a free account. Like, I know people got concerns about data and hacking and stuff, but realistically, what's going to happen is, like, is you having it logging into PSN as well as Steam, is that higher risk than
No.
just logging into Steam when you're pretty much posting everything you do online anyway through like your social media? If you have Facebook, you can't. It's weird to be
Yeah,
to care about
in
this stuff.
2024, I think you need to just
Yeah.
accept that your details are out there.
I don't
and
like it, and I think it should be legislated in a ways that businesses cannot sell your data personally, but you also have to live in the real world, and that does happen.
Yeah, and unless you're doing anything nefarious, like, does it matter? Like, I just think like
I think it does. I actually do. I don't think companies should be allowed to sell your data.
Well, they're not,
Full
right?
stop. They are.
Are they?
It's in the terms. Most companies will be selling your data. It's in the terms of service.
But what are they going to do with it? Oh, send me an email.
This is how we get targeted ads and stuff.
Right, but is that impacting on your life that badly?
So it's
really?
Social engineering. There's a lot of dodgy shit that can be done by having profiling people and stuff. Like, it's sketchy, but
It sounds like Watch Dogs.
I don't think this is a problem, and I actually don't doubt that many people think it is a problem.
Well, the reality is, yeah, if you've got an issue, it's like, it's free. It takes like 2 minutes. Pop an email. If you're that worried, put in a fake email address. Make a secondary account, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, if you really don't want it connected, but
have you never played a multiplayer game? Most of them require you to sign up to their service.
Yeah, Ubisoft, Epic, Fortnite, like they all have it in some degree.
Yeah, and because I think multiplayer games do oddly need that in order to keep everything lined up properly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't think this is a problem, and I think people are making it. I think the press is trying to make this more of a make this seem as if more
if you
people
think
care
about it, Helldivers, super successful, super popular. So anything to do with Helldivers gets clickbait. If it's got a negative spin on it, negativity sells. Therefore, it'll double down on it, and it's literally a non-starter for the most part. Does it impact your life? No. My life? No. Millions and millions of players out there? Not at all. It's just that small niche community. I do think they need to do something with the countries that aren't supporting them, because that is an issue.
Yes. That's an issue that needs addressing, and it needs clarification.
But in terms of everyone else, it's like, just
in terms of everyone else,
over it.
Reddit's going to kick off for a couple of weeks, a week or two. You're probably going to lose maybe a couple of hundred people, maybe even a couple of thousand players who are just going to hardcore go, no, I'm not doing that. And then everyone else is going back to playing.
Yeah.
What is inherently a great game.
And there is a business side of this we need to remember, and that is like they have these things in place also to help the security of the game and their servers, so they know who's playing the game. So if they've got cheats, they've got people trying to hack the game and other nefarious things, they can isolate those issues by being able to lock them down to a particular account and go, right, that's the account, ban it, block it, red list it, whatever you need to do.
There's that, but I do sometimes think companies use that as a get out of jail free card. So I don't fully just accept that sort of thing as face value. We're doing it for internet security. Like, really? I'm always skeptical when companies say shit like that, but I just don't think this is a problem. Apart from if PSN isn't in your area, and I would highly suspect if you can't have a PSN account in whatever region you're in, you're probably not going to need one to play Helldivers.
Yeah, just move house, move countries. That's clearly what you need to do to resolve the issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't initially have this in the news, and then, as you said, because the games media made it such a thing, I was like, I guess I should probably put it in there. But yeah, if you got a PlayStation, you're currently playing, nothing changes. If you're on Steam, log in. That's all you got to do. I mean, you're already logged into Steam, right? So you've already logged into one account and handed your details over to Steam.
You're already logged into Microsoft, probably, unless you're playing on Mac or like Linux, which means you're already giving your data to effectively Xbox.
Which then in turn, it's a knock-on effect.
You're currently watching this on Google or listening to it on a podcast service, which is probably selling your data as well. Yeah. I hate that reality, but it is the reality.
Yeah. We don't have your data, though. We barely even know who you are. All you people out there with your usernames.
John Smith.
No, I mean, it dawns on us when we have our YouTube
stroking
members.
His dog.
We've got like wonderful. That's a weird insight. And there's someone called John maybe out there right now going, "Oh my god!" But Yeah, if you think about we don't really know who listens to our show outside of their cover names and stuff. Like we say Chris and Richie, they are our real names, but I'd like to think there's no, or are they? Yeah, surprise. Richie is in fact John. Yeah, we would have slipped up well long ago by now if that wasn't the case. Pivoting away towards some sad news as well. Developers KeokeN Interactive, who you might remember from our Stadia days, they're the people who made Deliver Us the Moon, Deliver Us Mars, and a couple of other smaller titles. They've decided to lay off their entire team due to lack of publishing options for forthcoming projects. They have vowed to rebuild in the future to continue its legacy, but in a lengthy statement put on Twitter, the CEO basically tweeted out saying, "Heartbroken, we've had to lay off our team because nothing substantial materialised directly after GDC this year. We've unfortunately exhausted all our possible options for publishing, working for hire, and co-development." So yeah, Richie, it looks like, in a nutshell, they went to GDC to hopefully try and broker some deals for publishing the next game, which I think the next title was going to be Welcome Home or something, which was at the end of their trilogy of Deliver Us games. It was Deliver Us Home, sorry, which I think is returning to Earth. So they've done the Moon, they've done Mars. Now there's one about Earth, and seemingly can't find anyone to fund them. So they're in that weird place where it's like, do you keep sinking money and cost into development, or do you lay everyone off, pause, and then go again? So they've started looking at Kickstarters as well for Deliver Us Home. But I don't know. It's an interesting one. I didn't think the games were fun unto themselves, but it's the state of the industry right now, right?
The industry's consolidating, and unfortunately, through no fault of their own, I think these are victim because publishers, if they're just keeping tight on their cash, they're not taking risks on the games like this, or they might look at it and go, "There's not enough of a financial return," and it's a shame to see talented studios go under through no fault of their own, as far as I can tell. And it seems like GDC was the last roll of the dice for them to try and keep the team together. I think it's interesting, though, that they are still looking at Kickstarters, which means they haven't fully given up. But it seems like they've took the decision, we can't support our team at the moment, so we are going to lay her off before we go bankrupt, which I think is a good move, to be honest, because that means these devs are hopefully getting a decent severance package. And then if the Kickstarter kicks up and gets going, then they might be able to get some of them back and get the band back together.
Yeah, it seems. So
I don't think this is the last we're hearing. I hope this isn't the last we're hearing from them. I hope in maybe a couple of months we hear about a successful Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean they've got a proven track record now. Maybe a publisher
has reached out to them or something, out of nowhere, and has got them. We're going right. Things are getting back together. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Deliver Us Mars was last February that came out. I believe it's been on some kind of subscription service as well. So you'd imagine they're probably in early pre-production on Deliver Us Home. So they've got the assets, they've got the proven experience. They obviously have the staff now made redundant. But in terms of that, yeah, in the court tweet, he says, the CEO Paul says, "Paul and I are heavily beat, but far from beaten. It's our personal mission to rebuild KeokeN brick by brick like we've done before in the name of our people and to continue the legacy of our games." So it seems clear that they have a mission goal. Kickstarter might be the best way to do it without that kind of financial restriction overhead. But yeah, it's just, I think, a ringing indictment of the industry. You put out 2 decent games and they don't make enough money or return on investment to merit a third game, and your studio, you can't sustain yourself. So
that's it.
Crazy.
There's not enough money probably in the bank to finish the development and publish a third game. But it doesn't seem like they're not in profit in a way where they're not talking about going bankrupt. It's like, we just don't have the funds to be able to finish what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's all about investment, isn't it? You need to spend money to make that money back, it's a long commitment over what now takes several years as opposed to 2 or 3, which was the usual turnaround. But it's a shame, so our hearts go out to them. Hopefully they'll come to fruition soon. Deliver Us Moon, first look up on our YouTube channel now. If you want to go check that out, go buy it, support them, give them something. Moving on though, Assassin's Creed Mirage will soon be the first in the entry of the series to be coming to iOS. It's going to be a first fully fledged Assassin's Creed game on iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max later this year. Coming to the App Store on the 6th of June, Richie. So we're getting to a point now, we've had it with Resident Evil and Death Stranding in the last couple of months. But yeah, in the light of Assassin's Creed, I guess, Void so far this year, Mirage came out last year, was received quite well, a bit of a smaller entry in the franchise, which is probably why it can fit on a phone, to be fair. But it's that kind of cross-generation of technology now where phones are becoming so powerful that they can play AAA games natively. And we saw Resident Evil perform quite well. Death Stranding, as I mentioned. Ubisoft now dipping their toes as well. We know Jade is coming later on this year specifically for mobile, but you do wonder why they bother if they can just put Mirage on there, right?
Yeah, they could. Maybe this is a test for Ubisoft. We'll put Mirage in there. If it does well, we'll look at porting the rest of the catalogue. Mirage is probably the easiest to port because it's a good test bed because it is AAA quality in terms of how it's presented. So it's going to tax the hardware of a smartphone to that standard. But it's smaller, so it means there's literally less to port to get running. It probably is a good test bed, and if it does well, you might see things like the Odyssey, Valhalla, and Origins like trilogy come next.
Yeah, I do wonder who these people are who are playing. Like I put maybe 30 to 40 hours into Assassin's Creed. I couldn't imagine sitting with my phone using touch controls for that long.
Kids play. I do think increasingly think that our kids are just used to playing games on the phone with touchscreen, even when it is an emulated gamepad. Rather than, I've always felt touchscreen is good when things are made directly for touchscreen, like things like Direct Touch back in Stadia was fantastic.
Yeah.
It didn't work great for me because my phone was too small, but that's more of, if I had a tablet, Direct Touch would be fantastic. And for some games, like I always thought Football Manager, for example, would work very well with Direct Touch on a tablet through something like Stadia. But I've always hated emulated controllers. They don't fit, to me, they don't feel good. You don't get the same sort of feedback you get from a controller. You always miss the bloody buttons.
You can't see them because your thumbs are in the way.
Your hands are literally in the way of the content. So I just don't like that kind of controls. But there again, I'm an old man now. Kids do. That's how a lot of kids play games. Because honestly, if when we were in secondary school, Chris, Assassin's Creed Mirage came out then on our phones, we'd probably be playing on our phones at lunchtime and stuff.
Yeah, not talking to anyone with our little alien fingers gripped with our claw hands gripped round.
Yeah, that probably would have been us. Like
bunch of lobster kids out there scuttling around in the yard.
We didn't even have smartphones till wasn't even. Well, we had mobile phones in secondary school. It wasn't probably till college. We got
cameras on our phones in secondary school. I remember that was a thing when like, oh my god, people can share like pictures. It was like crazy, and it cost you to send a photo message. It was like 50p. Text will cost you 50p.
Because when one pay as you go and they top up with your pocket money, like your mum might give you an allowance for your phone, and you had to top up with your pocket money, which you wanted to spend on sweets and go on the cinema and shit.
Such a simpler time. But people out there can enjoy Assassin's Creed Mirage on the App Store from the 6th of June, or you could play it on console, the far superior place to play. Speaking of mobile games, Richie, we've got another one I mentioned at the top of the show, but as this is May the 4th, Zynga's Star Wars game, Star Wars Hunters, finally arrives, also in June, on June the 4th. So actually you've got a double hit of you could play Star Wars Hunters and then Assassin's Creed Mirage within 2 days of each other. This was originally announced way back in March 2021. And it was like, a new Star Wars game, and then it turned out to be mobile. It was like, oh dear. Then it got delayed to 2022, which then turned into 2023. Of course, Zynga were acquired during that time as well. But yeah, high expectations they set, so it kept slipping, and then it got finally knocked back to 2024. So this game's been pushed back and shipped around a couple of times. It's a 4v4 arena shooter in the Star Wars universe. It's coming to iOS and Android, but also Nintendo Switch. So I think Switch is probably the preferred place for me to play it. It's going to feature 3 classes: damage, support, and tank. 5 battlefields to host the games. There'll be Ewok Village, the Dune Sea, Outpost, Tatooine, of course, and Death Star Crossfire, putting players into the fray of X-Wings, TIE Fighters, who swoop in to basically win in a 4v4. I don't know how I feel about this one. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I think going back to our school times, I would have loved this. But now as an adult, I'm like, I'm just going to get my ass handed to me and get frustrated. And yeah, I don't know. How do you feel? I'm a big fan of the old Star Wars power battles back in the day.
Honestly, the only thing that appeals to me in this entire game is the IP. And I'm someone who says that the game needs to be good, and the IP should be the thing that is is a cherry on the top of the cake, and not the actual cake. I don't like the art style. It's got that Fortnite aesthetic, which it's fine, but it's so played out for me. I get sick of seeing it. I don't really like PvP games that often. I'm not into arena shooters. There's just nothing in this for me.
Yeah, I mean, looking
this
at
game and it's mobile. This is not for me.
Oh, you get it on the Switch. Is it free to play? I'm not too sure.
But the Switch is online. Connectivity is terrible.
That's true. Yeah, it is. Game modes at launch include Squad Brawl, sees teams competing to be the first to reach 20 eliminations, such as like kill the other team. While dynamic control task deals with capturing 4 rotating control points, capture the flag. Power control is about holding those control points, while trophy chase challenges teams to hold the TRO F-33 droid trophy and the first to reach 100%. Don't know what that means, but there's no mention of Football mode, which was last seen in BioWare's Star Wars: The Old Republic and teased for inclusion back in 2022. Zynga haven't shared a list of full characters yet because they're probably looking at seasonal pass content, as with most mobile games, but the trailer does suggest it'll include Wookiees, droids, Jawas, droid manipulating, Mon Calamari, and Rhodians, etc.
They might be saving named characters for like DLC. I mean, it's a mobile game after all. And everything negative I've said about this game, like it's absolutely not for me. I think it's oddly a good thing for this game. Because if it's very clearly not for me, it's very clearly going to be for someone else. It's not in that no man's land. This is not a game that's been pitched at me. This is a game that's being pitched at the kids in the playground. I bet you they're going to make a shit ton of money.
Yeah, it looks fun
as long
and
as
colourful.
It plays well. As long as it plays well, they're going to make a ton of money with it.
And Star Wars is an IP unto itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just prints money for just being Star Wars. You got that little bit of nostalgia. Throw some lightsabers in there. Like, I'm just currently watching the end of the Bad Batch season. We know there's going to be D23, a bunch of Star Wars stuff, no doubt, announced in the next couple of weeks. So there's plenty to go around. And again, I think for every Hunters, there's a Jedi Survivor for you. There's a Battlefront collection remake for nostalgia for older players. And it's like, there's just something for everyone in this franchise.
Is very different to the Arkham VR story at the start of the show, where it's like, oh, you're doing this instead of what people want. They're doing this as well,
yeah,
as what other people want. So I'm fine. I'm fine with stuff existing like this. Like, I'm fine with the VR game existing. I just do a remake of Arkham Asylum. Just do it. WB. It'll print your money.
Yeah, nice and simple. What else will print money, hopefully, will be Hi-Fi Rush finally coming to the Nintendo Switch, if the PEGI ratings board are correct. So some more Nintendo news this week. We were quite shocked back at the start of the year when some of those Xbox news started to drop about them porting their games over to other platforms. And Hi-Fi Rush was almost the shoe-in default factor. It needs to be on Switch.
It feels like a game that's made for the Switch.
Yeah, and yet, to our surprise, it was announced for PS5. And it was like, huh? But we knew there was some stuff behind the works that said actually there's in-game cosmetics for Nintendo branded stuff, PlayStation branded stuff, and Xbox branded stuff. And then here we are. It's been listed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a kind of stealth drop of Hi-Fi Rush on Switch maybe at Summer Game Fest.
Yeah, I think you could see this come up at a Nintendo Direct in the summer.
Yeah, from our partners at Microsoft. Hi-Fi Rush coming today.
Yeah.
Available on the Switch eStore.
They probably won't mention Microsoft because they never seem to do stuff like that. They'll just like, what who was the studio made this again?
This was Tango, so it's the same folks who did.
They'll mention Tango, but they won't mention Microsoft. Probably.
Our partners at that, yeah, and we know obviously Grounded's out now on the Switch, Pentiment on the Switch, so
from the critically acclaimed studio Tango, here's Hi-Fi Rush, brand new to the Switch. They'll all present it as if it's a brand new game. That's how Nintendo do it. It's like, it's been out for years.
I bet it looks great on the Switch, though. Yeah. But that's it for all of our gaming news for this week, Richie. We'll round up the show with just a quicker look at what's going on in the TV world out there. I mentioned at the top of the show, the Knuckles series is now out on Paramount+. You and me went to watch this. Did we go see the first Sonic movie together? I can't remember.
Yes, we did.
And have you seen the second one?
I haven't.
No, I think I watched it on.
I kind of want to watch it, but it's difficult to find. I think it's on like Paramount Plus or something. Like it's not Netflix or it's not.
Well, I have
Disney
the
Plus or
Blu-ray
something.
if you want to borrow it.
Yeah, and I also found in the first film Sonic incredibly irritating as a character.
Well, you're going to
I
love
was
Knuckles
annoyed.
even more. Well, so the Knuckles series, it launched on Paramount Plus, 6-episode mini-series, essentially. The episodes vary from like half an hour to 40 minutes. They're not that long. I got through it in a day without realising it. I just had it on while I was working, and then it was like, it's done. Or it's on the finale or something. It suffers. I mean, I'd say overall as a rating, it's okay. But the biggest disappointment, the budget for a TV series and the requirement of having all CG characters shows. There are literal like 2 episodes maybe where I think Knuckles must be in it for 5% of the episode, if that. And the support characters aren't that strong. So when Knuckles isn't front and center, or the main character who's weird, if you remember the deputy police officer from the first movie, so not
Yes.
thingy, not James Marsden, not the main guy, his friend who also worked at the police station. He's now the main character with Knuckles. I should say the first episode is completely free on YouTube right now, so if you want to check out the first episode to get a vibe, there is predominantly a lot of CG in the first episode because they want to get people in the door.
What are your thoughts about them doing like the MCU thing with this, where now you have to, where the MCU I think was at its strongest when it was just films, and when they started trying to introduce TV shows, things got a bit fragmented, a bit messy. Are you worried that something might happen
No,
here? Like,
I think this is more for kids. That's why I just need to accept that Sonic in the MCU are very different, where I think they've found an audience with success, and I think that is because a bright blue hedgehog does appeal to kids. And that like wacky nature of him like doing Fortnite and TikTok dances and stuff, it appeals to 10, 12-year-olds today. Whereas it appeals to me because the nostalgia and the theme tunes and stuff.
Yeah, that's why I kind of enjoyed the first film. I just found Sonic a bit irritating, but it felt like you give a kid with ADHD 8 Red Bulls, and it was like, chill.
Is that not Sonic?
Yeah, it is a bit. So it's like, it's like maybe this isn't for me. It's not bad. It's just not for me.
Yeah. I know I recommend to you, but Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, the movie with Ugly Sonic in it, it's worthwhile checking out just for that. But
I might have to watch that with my girlfriend.
You should. It's really, really good. Like, not for unexpected reasons.
What's it on?
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I'll mention it tonight.
I'd recommend that highly over watching the Knuckles series.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something, like, get back to me. But I enjoyed it.
We're playing Overcooked, so.
I enjoyed it, but in the light of the Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which I can't believe a third movie is already out this Christmas, I think it'll fill a gap. It opens it up to maybe a few more characters in the world. I will say, if anyone is thinking of watching this, be prepared for Wade, who's the deputy police officer. His sister in it is the worst character I've seen on a TV show in years.
What, badly written or just...
Overacted to shit. You know, when it's like no real... Like, they're in a family scenario in someone's home having lunch, and she's like a 30-something-year-old woman, and she's acting like a 5-year-old, but it's like, but she's also supposed to be a FBI agent. And I'm like, no adult, professional, human being would act like this around family. Like, overacted to shit, over-dramatic, everything. Line delivery, it's just like, it was really, really bad. But Idris Elba rocks it as Knuckles. The Hound from Game of Thrones is actually the villain.
All right.
As much as he's not in it that much.
What is
it doesn't have a name, I don't think. I think he's just referred to as the dude, I can't remember. I didn't pay 100% attention, so it's not fully on me, but 6 episodes, probably about the right length, but it needs a lot more budget to give us a lot more Knuckles in it. But it's more of a redemption story about a father and son centered around a bowling tournament rather than Knuckles the echidna are actually doing superhero things. But final story of the week. Amazon's Fallout TV show was apparently watched by 65 million people in its first 2 weeks.
Not bad. I mean, great show, to be honest. I was talking about this with a couple of people at work, and just saying that everyone who's watched it seems to just love it. Especially gaming fans. I like how they've made this clearly for gaming fans. They haven't went, oh, we have to be careful with stim pack usage and like basically healing any wounds because it's unrealistic. Went, nah, sod it. Lean into it. This is a video game.
Absolutely. It was only bested by Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power in 2022 in terms of most watched, which shocks me quite a bit, but never...
I'm shocked that Rings of Power's up there, to be honest. Because I enjoyed it, but it's not that well received.
Yeah, well, you don't know how many people went back to watch the rest of it. It might just be the initial launch. But in the first 16 days, 65 million people, nothing to be shunned at. But I did want to pivot away and look at an item, because we always talk about daft accessories. You love your jackets for your Xbox controllers and stuff, and your little mini fridges and toasters. I noticed on Game, the UK retailer Game, on their website, they've got Lucy's Vault 33 backpack is an official piece of merchandise. So just a genuine blue and grey backpack. How much do you reckon, Richie, for this backpack?
I've seen the number.
Well,
I'm going to describe this. It looks like a novelty rather than a high quality functional item.
It's just a backpack.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's a high quality product. It looks fine.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything that I couldn't just go and buy myself and stick a sticker on.
It doesn't look like something you'd want to use daily for a few years to get your money's worth, considering it's... How many bottle caps is it, Chris?
199.99 bottle caps. AKA 200 quid.
A little bit
off. But yeah, reading the description, limited to one per customer, a strong, beautiful made, accurate replica of Lucy's roll-top backpack as seen in the Fallout TV series. Created using the patterns, using the make in the inverse bag Lucy carries with her into the wastelands. It's made with vegan leather.
It looks fine. The thing is, it's a weird price point because I can't see an adult with that money to drop on a backpack dropping it on this for actual use. So if you're looking at a younger audience, I can't see any sensible parent buying this for the kid for the homework.
Oh, absolutely not.
So like, is this just for collectors?
It's got to be, hasn't it? But it says like great for cosplayer and much more. This awesome bag is fully work ready with its well organized 20-litre interior, complete with 16-inch laptop compartment, zippered pockets, glasses keys. Why is glasses on it? Zipper pocket, glasses, keys, and phone pockets. Lucy's backpack really is a bag for all seasons. Maybe save your money and just get a normal backpack. But
I want to see a YouTube video where someone sees how well this holds up to radiation.
Yeah, probably. Right, other than that though, Richie, it's time for This Day in Video Games. May the 4th. Now, what do you think this day might be synonymous for in the yesteryear for game launches? You would think.
Ooh, I don't know. It's a difficult one, actually. Maybe Forza Motorsport 2?
Yeah, not Star Wars games, seemingly enough. I expected to bring this list up and go, May the 4th, they must have launched so many Star Wars games over the years. There was one. And which one was it?
Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the DS, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 2, and Xbox.
That's right.
Which Chris is holding up.
That's right. The Powers of a Jedi plays Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan. Test your lightsaber skills with epic duels from the film. Exclusive movie content. Skywalker soundtrack to intensify the action and go beyond the film with 16 interactive elements. 1 or 2 players. Great game, this, actually, I should say. Yeah. Great video game. But yeah, that launched 19 years ago. Of course, Episode 1, Phantom Menace, celebrating 25 years. If you're out there right now, I think it's on at the cinemas, so if you want to go watch it for a rewatch or for the first time. But in terms of video games, yeah, that is the only Star Wars game to apparently have released in video game history on May the 4th. What a day. Nothing really else out here, really.
I'm jumping ahead to May the 5th, where we've got Wolfenstein 3D.
32
Plants
years.
vs. Zombies. The Sims 3.
Plants vs. Zombies, shout to that. That was a good one. Yeah. 15 years ago since that. Was that Zynga or was that Bottle Cap?
I can't remember.
Plants vs. Zombies. PopCap, sorry. PopCap.
PopCap, yeah.
Made that one. Wolfenstein, Old Blood. And May the 6th when this show goes live. Mario Party 3 for the N64.
Yeah, it's a fairly quiet one. Castlevania Aria Sorrow.
But we say this about Star Wars games and why they don't release them, right? We said about Jedi Survivor could have been a Game Pass stealth drop.
I feel
for
like
May the 4th.
the May the 4th stuff is more a sequel trilogy era of thing that came about from the internet. Where I think the prequel trilogy, the height of Star Wars during the prequel trilogy, the internet hadn't really taken off to that level.
Yeah, I'd love to know at what point Disney or the Star Wars company, Lucasfilm and stuff, actually acknowledged May the 4th as their day. Like, there must have been a joke that went around in the office, and then someone went, hang on a minute, why don't we market this?
I think there might be an intentional avoidance of it, because if they start using it, then the expectation is every year they're going to announce something or something's going to drop on that day. Where if you just avoid it, you're like, Star Wars Day, have fun, you do a few tweets or something. But you don't announce anything big on May the 4th or drop anything big on May the 4th.
Yeah.
It keeps the expectation in line.
Well, you're right. Look at every time N7 Day hits and everyone's like, where the fuck's Mass Effect?
That's a very good example.
We don't have anything yet. It's like, calm down. Yeah. And The Last of Us Day had, Naughty Dog had Outbreak Day. And then the whole COVID-19 put a stop to Outbreak Day being the thing. And they had to call it The Last of Us Day, which is like such... Like, it doesn't work as well. But, it is interesting. Do we have a GamerGuildTV day? Is it just our anniversary?
I think it's our anniversary, end of September.
Yeah, 30th of September. This year will be our 5th year. And we do have plans for it. We should point out, we actually should probably start to talk about them a bit more proactively this year for what we want to do. But more on that.
We didn't really do
much
last year because things just didn't line up for us.
I had a newborn child and a bunch of other stuff, but we'll figure it out this year. Plenty of time to go yet. But that has been it for episode 38 of the Gamer Guild podcast. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in. Don't forget, if you want to like, subscribe, ring that bell and follow us on all social platforms. Click subscribe, become a member from as little as 99p. You get early access to this very show, stickers and badges, XDefiant, and you help support us making you great content and maybe fix Richie's internet connectivity issues with YouTube, whatever that may be. We'll be back, of course.
I will be fixing the Star Wars stream and putting up as a VOD.
Isn't that nice of you? We'll be back later this week for another live stream. Something we might start a new gameplay thing. I feel like I want to jump into something chaptered. We'll see. But more on that
in the comments of the Discord.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
We've been Gamer Guild Podcast. And remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. May the 4th be with you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.